Why do I have a cup here already?
Stamp paper is here.
Oh, they brought it over. Oh, thank you. I'm like, I'm so confused.
How I feel with my cups most of the time too.
What?
So I feel similarly about my coffee cups. Not today, but usually I have these a lot more.
Where's my?
Mine black.
I don't know. I don't know how these things work. You have the most experience. Okay. I'm going to call the Syracuse Board of Zoning Appeals meeting of December 12th, 2024 in session at 1:02. The first order of business is to approve the minutes from the November 11th, 2024 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Sorry, any modifications? No, nothing, great. Any abstentions? Excellent, great. Minutes are officially adopted. The board will now conduct the public hearings on today's agenda. First, the applicant or the applicant's representative will state the reasons for the requested variance and present any material or documentation which is to be considered regarding the proposal. Next, persons wishing to speak in favor of the proposal will be given the opportunity to address the board. Then, persons who wish to speak in opposition will be allowed to address the board. Finally, the applicant or representative will be given the option to make any closing arguments or comments to the board. Following the public hearings this afternoon, the board may make a decision on each application heard. The board may also decide to hold its decision until the next public hearing. If the hearing is closed, no additional information will be allowed into the record except for information that the board may request. That information will be available for public viewing at the zoning office in 1 Park Place, 300 South State Street. Staff, will you introduce the first application?
Certainly. First item on the agenda, V2423, is a use variance to permit a business identification sign that faces a private driveway in the commercial zone district located at 2921 Erie Boulevard East. Donald DeStefano is the owner and Adam Richardson is the applicant.
Is there anybody here to speak in favor? Okay, great, thanks.
Well, I'm Adam Richardson.
Okay.
I'm the one that filled it out for Don.
Could you give us your address too?
Of the building?
That's fine.
Oh,
We just need an address.
Is it 2921? Yeah, 2921 Erie Boulevard East. In this location, there's a new business and other buildings on Erie Boulevard in the city of Syracuse. If you don't have frontage, you're not allowed signage. So we're just trying to match other buildings that have it for the area so they can actually be able to bring in business, because at night right now you can't see anything. So, yeah.
Any other information you want to present?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Anybody who wants to speak in, we have
Do you have
to,
any questions from him, right?
we got to do the, and then we can have discussion.
Okay, that's the applicant question, right?
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Okay, now you want the sign on, above your entrance, right?
Yes,
On the front.
above the
Now,
entrance.
you're also putting a sign in the back of the building?
Yes.
No, because, now are these that's all going to be, is that going to be an
That would be illuminated within the limits of the light levels. That sign, as well as the sign that would be in the front, would still be under the allowable limit for the square footage for signage. So we wanted to have it on both sides, whether people park in the back or on the front or on the side. And the one in the back is just a logo.
Okay. Would that be visible from 690, or is that just going to be?
Probably in the winter,
All right, thank you.
but it would be a lot less bright than those billboards you already see on 690. Those blind me whenever I drive, so this wouldn't be nearly as bright.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions from the board for the applicant? No? No? Okay. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak in favor of the application? No? Anybody who wishes to speak against the application? Okay. I am going to call that public hearing closed. No? Oh, the public comment closed. Sorry. Great. Discussion? Right?
What was in the building before?
So that would have been a question for them.
Oh, well, I don't really care. What was in the building before? It was vacant. Because it's,
It shares a building with a Visual Works who's in the front.
yeah.
They're the only ones that have frontage because their sign right now takes up the whole front.
Right. That's what I thought. Just
Yeah.
making sure.
Yep.
All right, we're reclosing the public hearing. Any discussion amongst the board, with the board? Or questions for staff?
Well, since we're giving them, we always want to give the minimum allowable, and this would be a use variance. Do we really want to allow the logo sign in the rear of the building, or just give them the thing above the door, which is the main request this afternoon?
Any other thoughts from the board on that? Question, staff, if we do approve this variance and there are other tenants in that building who need signage, they would each have to come in separately for a use variance on that section of the building? Okay. So then this property would be encumbered potentially with several use variances
Yes, and a lot of signs.
and a lot of signs. Is that, Christian, what was that?
Is there only 2 tenant spaces in this building? One of them's vacant? One of them is vacant?
Yeah, so the Valley is occupied right now, and the rest of them are vacant. And on the sign plans, they are proposing also to have a sign for other tenant space, but zoning, we cannot approve the signs for the future tenant space.
Okay, that's helpful, thank you.
How does it work with the illumination of the sign in particular? Like,
You have to comply with the sign ordinances in the rezone, correct? Yep.
Is that what you're asking?
well, I guess I'm asking what the restrictions are on them, because I do look at he was saying it's not going to be that bright, but in a little bit, it looks like it's like a marijuana-oriented spaceship in the rear. So like, I could imagine it being, based on my LED holiday lights, it being like pretty intensely bright, which it is in the rear. It is basically between it and 690, but I do just wonder what the standard is for like the light.
It's a 1-foot candle, but yeah, which is, I don't even know how to describe that. It's a very outdated way of measuring brightness.
Okay. So in theory, there could be, if somebody was like, this is way too bright, it's distracting from
Well,
further away.
This,
Like,
the light wouldn't be able to spill over into another adjacent property, so it wouldn't be able to spill over into the
but it, right.
right of way.
And it's not, yeah, okay.
So the sign ordinance is designed to minimize the light emitted that would disrupt neighbors.
Could I
Right,
ask the
right.
applicant another question? Or is it closed?
Okay. I don't have any more questions.
May I ask the applicant another question? Okay. Yesterday, I happened to drive by. Now, there was a sign already there. Is that the sign you're applying for, or is this a different sign that's up there
No,
today?
that was like a grand opening sign, temporary.
That's more of a banner that just is...
It was just a banner, removable
Okay.
banner, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
And the sign in the back of the building only can be seen from 690, pretty much, correct?
Right, and it's probably for like delivery vehicles.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Also note that they need to get a sign permit after you deliberate on this use variance. So at that point, if they're not in compliance with the zoning ordinance, the sign section, then they'll have to comply.
Say that again?
So they'll have to get a sign permit after
Right.
deliberation on this, and if they're not complying with the development standards of
Oh, okay.
signs, then they'll have to, in order to get the permit.
Right, okay. Sorry, misunderstood what you said. All right. Board discussion, good? Okay. We need to do seeker?
Has everyone had a chance to review the short EAF Part 1 that's contained in your packet?
Yes.
Yes.
And is everyone familiar with and have reviewed the questions on the short EAF Part 2? Also in your packet. Does anyone believe this will have any moderate to large impacts under seeker?
No.
Because you don't believe there will be any moderate to large impacts, I recommend you vote to issue a negative declaration under seeker and complete the EAF Part 3 accordingly.
Okay. Can I have a motion for a negative declaration?
Second.
I can't, I need it first.
Oh, can you? I make a motion for a negative declaration of seeker.
Great. Second? Karen seconding. All those in favor of the negative declaration? Aye. Great. All right, next up, I need a motion on the use variance V2423, please.
I make a motion to approve the use variance.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Tim, could you walk us through the standards of proof?
That's why there's the long hesitation in who's going to go.
Page 13.
Page 13 might help.
Not in my book. 16. 13. So the applicant must prove that the property is unable to achieve a reasonable return. I do think it would, with the legalization of marijuana, I think it may be harder to operate a successful marijuana store without a sign. Although I don't think the sign was previously an impediment, but at this point, you probably need a sign. The applicant must prove the unique circumstances apply. I do think it's unique that the front of the building, the full frontage is taken by a vision shop that already has a sign. It is on the side. It largely matches the integrity of the other businesses on Erie Boulevard East that have similar setups. And there's no neighbor in the rear other than the highway far away, so there wouldn't even be visible in the summer, but it will be visible in the winter, but it's far away, so it's like a twinkling star. The applicant must prove hardship is not self-created. I think the applicant is trying to work within the constraints of a property that was already there and had many of these characteristics, just all the characteristics to start. The applicant must prove that the essential character of the neighborhood will not be altered. In no way do I think this will alter the character of Erie Boulevard East. It's very much in line with the other businesses in that area. Anybody else have any?
You seconded. Anything to add?
Nothing to add. I agree with what Tim has stated.
Also, just note in the application that there is a table of sales to support the reasonable return criteria. So there is some financial data we are using as part of our justification. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. All right. You guys are good to go. Could staff introduce the next application, V2424?
Certainly. The next agenda item is V2424 for a use variance to allow the establishment of an off-premise sign on property situated at 200 South West Street and West Fayette Street. It's in the MX3 zone district. The owner is Stephen Case, and the applicant is Bon Chinook and King.
Is anybody here to speak on behalf of the applicant?
Hello, my name is Brody Smith. I'm an attorney at Bon Chinook and King. Thank you for letting me present this application. It involves 200 West Street.
We need an address for you, please.
Yeah, my address
Thank
is
you.
1 Lincoln Center in Syracuse, and the address of the property is 200 West Street. It's at the corner of West Street and Fayette. This is a simulated, visual simulation of what the billboard might look like. Just to orient you to the site, it is very small patch of land. It is 0.07 acres. It is wedged, and I'll walk up to the screen here. This is the railroad tracks down here, and then this is west and this is Fayette. So, you know, this is what we all drive by on our way up to Tip Hill. You may recall that it's a very, very small lot. And the reason for requesting the use variance is it really isn't appropriate for development in terms of putting a structure there. It's too small. Due to its unusual configuration, being a triangle, it's tight. And then also how extremely small it is. You can see scale in terms of looking at the automobiles there. It's not really appropriate even for use as a parking lot. Those are very busy roads where people proceed at a high rate of speed, and it's not even safe to try to put driveways at that close to the intersection in that location. So the only reasonably profitable use would be as an off-premises sign. The proposed sign would be 38 feet by 9. We propose to use in the simulation that we've presented, there are existing posts. There was a sign there previously. In order to obtain a use variance, we're required to present competent financial evidence of our inability to, my client's inability to get a reasonable return. The property was purchased for $25,000. They've included a pro forma and financial information about the expenses related to the site. That was attached to a sworn affidavit from Mr. Case, who's been in the real estate business since 2011. So one of the requirements for use variance is that you have competent evidence from an expert that involves dollar and cents representations. So this property, since he's purchased it, has generated no revenue and has lost $4,000 just due to carrying costs. There isn't really an ability to expand it through the acquisition of neighboring properties because it's bordered on all three sides by infrastructure. You can see that the railroad tracks are behind it, and then it's hemmed in by roads on the other two sides. So it's not one of those situations where you can make a small property more economically viable by acquiring neighboring properties. That's not available. I believe that the information that's been submitted checks that box in terms of the inability to get a reasonable return under the current zoning, which is MX3. And through the provision of the expert affidavit and then the financials, I think that demonstrates that. The property is clearly unique. It's unique in the sense of how small it is, its unique location, located on West and Fayette, and the appropriateness of that location in particular for a billboard. This would primarily serve people traveling west on Fayette and south on West Street. If I could make that possibly more confusing, I would, south on West Street, but that is what it is. In terms of character of the neighborhood, I think you're probably all familiar with this corner. There is certainly no residential use that would be impacted. There is a parking lot across the street. There's train tracks behind it. So there really is no negative impact on the character. Across the street, there's what we all probably remember as the former Red House building, which has commercial uses in it. This impact is not self-created in the sense that the...
Yeah, just leave it there.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, you can see it there. It's surrounded by it's an urban setting, I guess is the best way that I would put it.
Will you have to evict anybody?
Say again? No, what was that?
Will you have to evict anybody? No, it's okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
There's one person who got it, but
Yeah.
Two people got it.
Hear what he said.
The last it's not self-created. That that infrastructure that surrounds it is what it is, and it's not going anywhere, and that's the reason that the property has limited development opportunities. Yep.
Now, Brody, is he making money, collecting rent from those other billboards that are on the land?
No, that's a good question. So those other billboards are not on the land. They're on the railroad's land. They're not on the property owned by Case. So that abutment is a separate parcel.
That's why you can plant the trees there to obstruct their sign. I like it.
Well, I don't want to get too into our neighbors, but it's my understanding that those are not permitted signs. So that's the reason we're not asking for any kind of
This is just
spacing. and all that.
information for the public.
Yeah.
Now, would this proposed sign be one of those electronic billboards that is always changing its ad, or is this going to be a flat screen?
That's a good question, too. So the mock-up that we had QPK do uses the existing posts. There's 5 posts that were there. There was a sign there in the past. But we would like to leave the option open to putting a digital sign there. That could be an even more attractive use. So if the board sees fit to allow that as an option here, we would like the option to do that. We included the mock-ups that we're seeing on the screen. Those are all in Section 3, and that's what we had QPK do simulations and provide essentially a site plan and a landscaping plan. All that would have to ultimately be submitted to the codes office as part of a sign application. But yeah, my client is exploring the possibility of putting a digital sign there too.
So the intent is that this would be a revenue-generating sign, not, yeah.
Right. It is an off-premises sign. There is no business located on that property to advertise. So it'd be a billboard. Yep.
So the images do show improvements, I guess, to the portion in front. Is that the intention to actually do that?
Yeah, the landscaping plan is, it's my client's intention to landscape the property in addition to building the sign to improve the general attractiveness of that corner. As you know, you may know Mr. Case owns a lot of property in downtown Syracuse, is heavily invested in the neighborhood, and is, all his developments tend to look as good as possible.
Did staff have an opportunity to determine the proposed site plans? Is the proposed site plan with the foliage and the sign and everything allowable as proposed if the use variance is granted?
Yeah, the landscaping plan does conform to the Article 4.5 in rezone, landscaping and buffering.
And any sign permit would be required to meet any billboard specs?
Yep.
And that the determination of whether it can be illuminated or not would not be within our jurisdiction, but in the sign permits jurisdiction?
Correct.
Okay.
So we need your permission for the use. They can beat us up on the plants if you want.
I just want to make sure who's beating you up and when.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if it's not us, even better.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? No, Karen? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Okay. Hearing none. Is there anybody who wishes to speak against the application? No? All right. Then I will, what am I doing? Public hearing? I'm not closing the public hearing. I'm closing the public comment. Sorry, I don't know why it's so hard for me today. I'm closing the public comment on V2424. Any other discussion from the board about the application or questions for staff? No?
No.
Well, yeah, where was the financial part? Was it in the big, there was, I know I
There's a
saw it, I
table
looked
with
at
a
it.
chart.
What page was it on again, please?
I can answer that question if you'd like, Nora. There's an affidavit,
Yes, I see
and then
that.
attached to the affidavit, there's a number of exhibits. And the financial information is, let's see, Exhibit 3 is the MLS, or I'm sorry, E. E has the spreadsheet, so
Because I thought I saw it, and I wanted to see it
Yeah.
again here, and I,
it's right here. Actually, I have mine tab.
oh, yeah, okay.
I think the Cliff Notes were some money better than negative money.
Page 86.
Any other discussion from the board? I believe we have to do seeker.
A chance to review the short EAF Part 1 that's contained in your packet?
Yes.
And have you also reviewed the short EAF Part 2 prepared by staff that's in your packet?
Yes.
Does anyone believe this project will have a moderate to large impact under seeker?
No.
No.
Because you don't believe there will be any moderate to large impacts, I recommend you vote to issue a negative declaration under seeker and complete the EAF Part 3 accordingly.
Anybody like to make the motion for the negative declaration? Karen, second?
I'll second.
Otis. All those in favor of the negative declaration? Aye. Nobody against? Great. Now may I have a motion on the use variance for V2424?
The thing. I just saw it. Where the heck did it go? I'll make a motion, we approve.
Great.
I'll second.
Okay, Michael, take us through your standards of proof.
Okay, the applicant must prove that the property is unable to achieve a reasonable return. He evidenced that with his financial data. The applicant must prove that it's a unique circumstance to the property, which it is because it's such an unusually small-shaped property, because it's a small triangle. The applicant must prove that the financial hardship is not self-created. Well, there again, it's because of the situation of the land being so small, and it's pretty much useless the way it is. And the applicant must prove that the essential character of the neighborhood wouldn't be altered. It's a commercial area, and it would not be changed by having this sign installed.
Anything to add?
I would just add, since the property was purchased for $25,000, and since they were not able to make any money on that property, I think that they're unable to make a reasonable rate of return as it is. The unique circumstances, again, the size of the property being where it's located, and I think the recommendation that has been brought before us is an excellent one in making the property useful, and it definitely will not impact the character of the neighborhood, since that corner there is a commercial piece of property, and some of the suggestions that have been brought before us, I think it's going to enhance that area, and it is definitely not a self-created hardship, since the property was bought exactly as it was today, as when they initially purchased it.
I'll also just note that this variance will be subject to the general conditions for variance approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Great. Motion passes. Or whatever. Passes. Terrific.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there any other new business?
Oh, what? Do we have any other?
We don't have any new business. Nope. Second to the,
I'll second.
great. All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Brody, here's your take.